At-large Boots.
Here.
At-large Spear.
Here.
Council Ward number 1 Leeper.
Here.
Ward number 2 Anderson.
Here.
And Ward number 3 McNeil.
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so on to the agenda approval. I've actually been asked to move the conclusions of the concerning Tipton Development Commission situation to right before the motion for approval. So if I could get that approved along with the rest of the agenda approval.
So moved.
Spear with the first
I'll second.
and Boots with the second.
Boots? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
All right, so now to the unscheduled communications. If there's anybody who wants to address the city council, please make your way to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Larry Hodgson, 210 East 6th Street, Tipton. And on your agenda tonight, you're going to be discussing the Development Director's office relocation. And I just want to express my opinion that I think that that should be seriously considered putting it in the City Hall, in the current City Hall building. You've got plenty of room upstairs. You could either put her office upstairs or put it downstairs and move the Finance Director upstairs. I think there's plenty of good reasons to do that. First of all, you're saving between rent and utilities, save about $10,000 a year. And I'm sure that's money that the city could use for something else. And it puts her down at the City Hall where she does a lot of communication with the city manager, the city staff, all of the employees of the city. She works with them on a lot of projects. It's certainly not going to be difficult for people to find her because she's still going to be accessible by phone or on the website, which is where how most people from outside of Tipton contact her anyway, set up an appointment for a meeting. And recently I think I saw somewhere that you said were concerned about her using her own private vehicle for town business, which I think is a problem. I don't think she should have to do that for any city business. And so if she was at the City Hall, you do have extra city vehicles sitting right out there. You've got a couple of them that she could make use of, and you wouldn't have to be paying mileage. She could just pop down there and jump in one of the city vehicles and drive wherever she needed to go, in town or out of town. So I think there's a lot of good reasons to do it. I'm sure you can find a use for $10,000 a year if you could save on rent and utilities. So, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jamie Meyer, 103 Parkview Drive. I'm here tonight to represent the library board. On your agenda, on the back side on L, you'll see a consideration there about changing the composition of the library board. The current library board is 9 volunteers that oversee the library, and we currently have 2 openings on our library board. Back about 3 years ago, city manager Nosvich at that time had met with our board, and he had brought up the idea of reducing our board numbers to a little bit of a smaller number. 7 was his recommendation at that time. We didn't proceed with that. We had filled an opening at that time, and we were moving forward, and the last 2 months here we've had 2 resignations on the library board, and kind of resurfaced this idea again for us. I believe in your packets there was a letter. I met with City Manager Wagner last week and kind of discussed this a little bit, and our rationale is twofold. One, your current city council has 5 members on it. So does the school board, so does the Cedar County Supervisors. Tipton Library Board, we have 9 members. We're a $250,000 entity for the city. The city's budget dwarfs ours tremendously, as does the counties, as does the school districts. I don't believe it's warranted to still have 9 people on the library board. It's also a little bit arduous when we say, hey, we'd love to have you serve on our board. It's now a 6-year term. Unless you're running for Senate of the United States, you don't have to have that kind of length of a term for that. So in meeting with Carrie Gritton, there are 2 options to do this. One is we could go out and gather 81 signatures on a petition to present to you to proceed to a vote, or she said you could just go to the city council and have them make a motion, and then it would come up on our next city ballot. So that's what my letter was a reference to, and that's why I'm here tonight, hoping that you guys will say yes to that, and then it'll become our job as the library board to promote that, so people have an understanding what that is on the city ballot, instead of them voting no because they're unaware of what that is. I would take any questions if you have any.
Either which way, if you get the signatures or if we.
Well, we're going to hopefully go for the vote one first.
But yeah, if we but either which way, that could end up on the ballot.
It will end up on the ballot, yeah. Yep.
If we're good, right?
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right. Seeing there's no one else, that will conclude the scheduled communications. The next up is the consent agenda, which can be passed with one motion, which are the city council minutes from July 3rd, the airport committee minutes from June 14th, the June treasurer's and investment report, Tipton development director's report, and also a liquor license renewal for the Tiger's Den. Is there any of these that need to be pulled out? Seeing there is none, is there a motion to pass this? Anderson with the first and Leeper with the second.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Lieber?
Yes.
McNeil? Booth?
Yes.
All right, then moving down to the letter H, which is ordinance amending electric utility rates, which is the first reading. Brian?
Yeah, this and the next one are both rate ordinances, this one being for electric and the other one, the next one being for gas. Just to summarize, a few meetings ago, we had an item of the first reading that the council passed. It was an ordinance that combined both rate ordinances into one. And some questions came up among the staff, and there was a desire to double check our numbers. And so last week, a number of us met with Bob Latham, he's the consultant who drew up the study, and found that there were some things to clarify. There were a few corrections made. I think we got a better understanding among those of us who were there about what the ordinances do or attempt to do. And so we've brought it back for a first reading for both of them.
All right.
I guess one other thing I could mention, in both cases, the rates are meant to be revenue neutral. People will generally have the same bill. What the goal was to shift some of the cost in the rates away from the user charge into the base. The reason being that as people reduce their energy usage or find alternative energy sources, the amount of the use can go down, but the city's fixed costs remain. And so the base is mainly meant to cover those fixed costs, so we are shifting some of the use into the base. And that's how the rate study basically changed things.
I have a question, Brian. Previously, we reviewed annually, at least the electric rates, to make sure that we didn't have to take big jumps in percentages. So is this something that we'll just have to revisit occasionally to make sure that we're
Right.
still?
Right. For example, Bob Latham suggested, I believe it was quarterly. I could mention just using, I'm sorry, just in adding to what you asked, as I understand it, the other goal, say for using the example of the electric utility, by changing our rates quarterly, if the cost of our cost of electricity goes down. The council's goal was to pass those savings on to the public. So by periodically adjusting our rates according to whether or not our cost of electricity goes down, that would be a benefit to the customers. But the way that the rate study is set up, our margins are the same. The difference is what we pay on the wholesale cost of power.
Any other questions?
You want me to explain to them what we're doing, how that will work? It's actually not the rates that's going to change, it's going to be the energy adjustment is what would change. Does everybody understand that? Because right now, the way we've been doing it in the past was it was figured once a year, and then that was the energy adjustment through the year. What we should start seeing is that typically in your summer months, it will be higher, and then as you come around to the fall, it'll start to drop, and the winter it'll go. When I was in Villisca and I was at Indianola, we seen no energy adjustment and credits. And then you get back into summer again, and then it just kind of does this big circle. But I don't know how it's gonna work here because I've never done it. We've never done it this way before here, I guess is what I'm saying. So I have no history to look at or to come back at, but just so you kind of know that's how we're gonna be doing it.
I guess I just don't want to see our budget get out of flux, where we're not able to cover some of this stuff since the rates have changed. And that's what you guys, I'm assuming, have analyzed and figured out that we're going to be okay.
Yeah, well, I felt a lot better after talking about it than you, Brian.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, the electric industry's changing big. I mean, the more and more solar and distributed generation we see, I mean, it's simple, the less revenue we're gonna see. I mean, it's, we still have the same fixed costs to provide the service, but
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there a motion to pass this first reading of the electric utility rates?
So moved.
Boots with the first and Lieber with the second.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil, Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
All right, and the next reading will be at the next meeting.
Right.
Then moving on to the ordinance amending the gas utility rates.
Basically
Are
the
they
same
allowed to say?
situation, yeah.
Any questions for Virgil at all? No? All right, I think, it's pretty much the same as the other one, we're just trying to consolidate a volatile monthly charge into a base charge. Anderson makes the motion to approve, and Lieber with the second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Boots,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
All right, so that one will be next meeting as well. Now, moving down to the report, my report about the Development Commission findings. All right, so I would like to take this opportunity to explain some of the recent positions of the City Council. They've been questioned numerous times over the enforcement of the city code regarding the appointments to the commissioners and boards, which is Chapter 25 of the Tipton City Code of Ordinances as it pertains to the Development Commission. The current issue regarding the Development Commission came about because of a request for information from one of our council members. After reviewing the information, the council discovered that anyone who resides outside of the city of Tipton is ineligible to serve on the Development Commission. Once that had been brought to my attention, I attempted to meet with the president of the Development Commission. After those attempts were not fruitful, interim city manager Tim Long and myself determined we would write a letter thanking Dr. Niles for his contributions to the community over the years and his hard work, but also informing him that he would not be reappointed to the commission. We were not part of these, this council was not part of the council when those codes were voted and acted upon. When something such as this is brought to the attention of the council, it is my responsibility and their responsibility to act on it. but I want to be clear that the council and myself are grateful to Dr. Niles for all of his contributions to the city of Tipton. While pursuant to the city code, Dr. Niles does not meet the necessary requirements to be appointed a development commissioner, the city of Tipton would welcome and appreciate any continued volunteerism Dr. Niles would choose to provide to the city. I'm hopeful that Dr. Niles reconsiders his recent position and were to continue to volunteer for the city. Several of you have pointed out, and I agree, that Dr. Niles has valued experience as a city volunteer and business owner. If you are willing to volunteer, I'm sure his expertise and contributions would be greatly appreciated. Now, regarding the city code, the city council has received questions from the public regarding if there is any interest in changing Chapter 25 of the code to allow other groups to appoint commissioners or to allow those who do not reside in Tipton to serve on these commissions. It is my understanding the council does not wish at this point to make any changes to the city code, including Chapter 25. Additionally, if the city were to modify Chapter 5 to allow groups or individuals other than the mayor to appoint commissioners, it would have to amend other portions of many other city codes to ensure everything was compliant, and it may incur issues with obtaining liability insurance coverage. It is also my understanding the city has been advised by the city attorney not to hand over appointment responsibilities, and we've also been advised by our insurance provider to not hand over the appointment process as well. There have been questions from the public regarding abolishing the commission altogether. Now, I personally believe that we need a group of dedicated people working together to promote Tipton and all it has to offer families looking to put down roots in a great community that is only minutes away from larger cities. After listening to the concerned citizens during the June 5th meeting, I would like to propose that the council, if willing, could change the ordinance to include a larger segment of Tipton residents. I would propose that the council amend the ordinance to allow 1 member from the chamber, 1 member from TEDCO, 2 from the city council, and the rest of the 7 members from the general public. I would propose leaving the rest of Chapter 25 as it is, requiring that the mayor appoint and the council approve all members, and that all members reside in the city of Tipton. The main theme I took from the June 5th meeting was that volunteers are hard to find. They are harder to find when they are not allowed to volunteer. I believe that if the council wants to look at how modifying this code and possibly others to include more of a population of Tipton, I think that would be a worthy goal. Although I can also see a benefit to abolishing the commission if the council deems that necessary as well. Abolishing would allow the economic development director to report directly to the city manager and the city council. It would also allow the council to have a more direct line of communication to the economic development director. These are all things that the city council will have to weigh moving forward. But I also know that this council prides itself on being an open and transparent governmental body. I'm hoping that this report is in keeping with the goals of the council in getting information to the public. I'm also hoping that we as a town can maintain the momentum we have started and stay together to keep working to keep Tipton an attractive and great town. So thank you for bearing with me through that. And we'll move on to now the motions for approval. The first one is the claims. Are there any claims that need to be brought out?
I have a couple.
Ms. Spear?
I saw in the auditor, we paid a large sum for, all it said was solid waste rental. Steve, what, do you know what that was for? It was like
It's an
$32,800.
Solid
annual
waste rental.
fee for solid waste assessment and disaster.
Oh, okay, it said something about rental, and I didn't know that was
It was Cedar County Auditor.
Yeah.
Yeah, billing for disaster services assessment and billing for solid waste assessment.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Mhm.
And then my other one was, I saw McClure had a couple of large bills in there, and the one I'm assuming was what was from our study on the stormwater and the sewers. I'm just wondering if there's, maybe we could make some kind of contact with McClure and see how long they anticipate the report to be, because I know that will be a time-consuming thing, but that would play heavily in the goal-setting program that we're gonna try and implement sooner than later.
Right.
I could ask them for an update.
That'd be swell. Thank you.
All right. Any other things that need to be pulled out? Is there a motion to approve this claims report?
So moved.
Spear with the first. And McNeil with the second.
McNeil?
Yes.
Boots?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yeah. All right, so then the second one, which is the consideration of the Tipton Development Director's office space location. Do you want to talk? Okay.
Especially if there's questions.
Good job on your report, Linda.
Yes.
Well, and I want to give correction to what Larry said. Never once have I been paid for mileage for any traveling I have done in this, for the city. Never once in town. And I think Leanne knows that, and Dean does too.
I want to correct that because I did not say you have been paid. I said there was discussion and it's been presented previously.
Well, you wanted to save on mileage.
Well,
Yeah, but
they were
I've
gonna
never been
discuss-
paid for
They were
that.
going to discuss pay,
Yeah, yeah.
which
So
they should do.
Right, you should.
maybe
Right.
so, but I have never been. So, and I've
Right.
not been paid for 2 years with
All
all
right.
my travels in town. If I go out of town, like to deliver 4th of July posters, then I'll submit a bill. Otherwise, I do not. I have always done it. And then also I'd like to comment that I do have people coming to my office quite a little bit. And some days it's a revolving door. Today I even had someone from New Orleans come in. So I do want you to know that office is utilized, not just via computer, but people on the streets walking in. So I wanted to make a correction with that, because I know, because I'm there. So I know who comes in and out. So I wanted to make that correction. So we had to wait till after the 4th of July. Because we had to get that under our belt first. And I would like to also commend Alicia Cady on the commission because she did a lot of the legwork with this. And then I just put it on a spreadsheet for you to look at. I had opportunity today, which I was very happy about, that I could take Brian around to each of the spots. We started last Friday, and we finished up today, so he could see what each of those locations looked like. And we also even went up to the chambers today. So we did it all today. So any questions for me? Dean?
Yes, what is your preference in this? Because you're the one up on the front lines.
Yeah. Probably when I first started, I would have never known how to answer that question. But having almost 2 years under my belt, I see that it is important to be seen, to be honest with you. And it is important to be accessible to individuals. I want to be accessible. I don't know if today I had a 90-year-old gentleman come to my office. If I go to City Hall, I'm going to have to go downstairs. And where do you want me to meet with him? Those are some things that you're going to have to think about. When USDA loans, the revolving fund loans, that's one of the questions that they ask, are revolving fund loans through the city. How do people get to me? How do they get in my office? I'm always happy to go to anybody, and I do. And I go to people that want drip money, I go to them. But the real question is, if I can't get to them or they're from out of town and they can't get to me, where do you want me to go that I'm going to be accessible to people? So that's just something you're going to have to think about, is the accessibility for me.
So your preference?
I can give, how about if I give pros and cons to everything?
That works
Because
with
I
me.
think that's extremely important. So, and I also have some emails, and I apologize to you. I would have loved to put this in your packet. So if you have some questions, I just didn't get these emails in time to do that for you, so I apologize for that. If you have a question, I could probably refer to an email, because again, Alicia was very good about that. So we'll go to the NBC properties first. That is a very nice building that has a very good appearance for the city of Tipton when somebody comes in. Example, like today, lady from New Orleans. She found me because of my son. That's how she found me. And she came in and we had a really good talk, and she actually is staying in our community for a few days. NBC, one thing that they did that nobody else did was when I first started, I went to the Economic Development Conference. I think probably you all remember that. And what they pounded in our head was those incubators. And that's the one thing that the NBC property has that nobody else does. And that would be something that an economic development director, you need to pay attention to new entrepreneurs and have a place for new entrepreneurs go. Coffin Building, and the NBC property is 2,000 square feet, which is, that's very nice. And you'd have a storage conference room in my office. Coffin Building, again, that's very comparable to the footage. The only thing about that is we'd have to discuss with Kevin is who would be responsible for remodeling that. At what cost would that, who is responsible for that? I love the frontage, the store frontage of that, because it's really nice and you can see in and people can see out. And I really like that. The only downfall with this one really is because Kansas City is right next door, you smell Kansas City right next door. I do, and I don't know when you visited that, if you noticed that, that would be the only downfall. We went to Aurora today. Again, the store frontage of that is excellent. That's where JAB used to be, on 5th Street. I think it's 106. I think it says 105 East, but it's actually 106 East 6th Street. Huge amount of area there. Good place for conference room. I know Jerry would work with us with that. Some of the things that he questioned, we'd have to, again, get it updated. And he said perhaps with a longer lease, he would be willing to do that, but there may be some cost to us with that. But again, your downtown, we got to talk about handicapped accessible too, is you have 2 steps going in there. And I think he said the door width is 36 inches, which I believe you can get a standard size wheelchair in there. But that's one thing we have to pay attention to, again, because of the USDA loans. And so I don't know if, some of our buildings downtown, they have a ramp going up. That would be something you'd have to maybe think about. But we also have to make sure that we can get a wheelchair through that door. Whirling, I had not been to this office before, so there would be several, about 3 offices, that would be accessible, a front office, then a conference room, and then a place for storage. The only thing I worry about there is, not that it would ever be a problem, but privacy with things on our desk. Because I'm sharing office space with another individual that has an office right connected. And so and some of the information in that office is very sensitive, because when you have individuals contacting you, there are many times, and we have financial records too in there, you cannot have that out for anybody. And it can be on my desk. Today we went to the Getz building, which is on 5th Street, right across the street from City Hall. And again, that has ample space, a little over 1,300 square feet. There would be a place again for conference room and my office. To get out the back door, it's a maze. It's a little, and I literally mean that. It is a maze that you have to go through. You have to go out a back door, down a hall, and then through another door, and then out. And that was one of my concerns initially, if everybody remembers, is just being able to get out. I could get out, but I'd have to go down a couple hallways. And then Marcia Myers. Marcia, actually, is willing to give all 3 spaces. And she is willing also to get the door to go to the center office where there would be a conference room, and then get her front updated as well. So because, you know, she has sinks from her barber shop in there. Marcia also has had someone in our community that has always washed her windows and has done snow removal, and she would pay for that to continue herself. And she wanted you to know that because she feels with this individual that is very important that he still receives this money, and that's something that she would be very willing to do. Marcia's building is very up to date as well. And, you know, she's got a new roof, and she's redone things inside, and it looks very nice. And then, of course, we went to City Hall, and we would have to decide, first of all, if I can't meet at City Hall, where you would want me to go. Second of all, are we going to be willing to remodel that room upstairs? And so those are some things that you would have to think about. How about questions for me? I'm just glad we got this part done.
And you and Alicia did a real
Well,
job.
thank you. And I thought it was very important today that Brian had visual. There's, I think the Getz building, and well, Getz, it's changed a little bit since we last met. Getz, Whirling, and O'Rourke, those are 3 newer ones that came on board. And if you would like to see those buildings, I am very, very happy to take you so you can have visual as well. That's how I learn things, is through vision.
Getz building, are you talking, would you be at the end on the west or where the Vision Center used to be?
Or the Vision Center was, yeah. And in that building, there's open space, but then there's 2 offices to the right where, you know, if you needed privacy for some reason, but also storage is up there.
The work that Jan, that is on East Fifth.
Yeah, it's 106 East 5th.
Okay. 'Cause
Oh, it says 6. Yeah,
So I fixed it.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is 5th.
It's up the street.
Yeah.
Of the locations, the privately owned locations that are for rent, my impression at the end of today was if you were to look at from a cost or overall value, I thought the most overall value was at 417 Cedar. That would be Marcia Myers. There were a number of things that Linda mentioned, but also the rent was quoted at $600 a month and even out to 10 years. And it mentions a year-to-year 60-day out clause. So if that became the choice, I'd jump on that for 10 years. But that was one factor. The overall, the average monthly utility cost was about $158 or about $1,900 per year. And again, it had some of the most sought-after features, such as a rear exit, storage space, and the downtown location. The next one that was on my list was 513 Cedar. That one had the $675 a month if the term of the lease is at least 5 years. The one thing that to me could be an overriding factor to choose that one over 417 would be, as Linda mentioned, there'd be sort of a companion relationship between the economic development office being there and an incubator system being there. That in a way is kind of a natural if that's something to consider. On the City Hall part of it, I know that there are concerns, but I know that one that you mentioned was the future of the old council area where the old elevated bench is. What to do with it, if the council had any strong desire to leave it or relocate it, if that mattered. And then there would be some sectioning off to provide for conference area and storage. I don't remember if you had any other floor plan considerations.
No, no. Just went up there and looked and just was thinking. Anything else?
Any other questions on this?
I have just a comment, I guess, that I would like to make, because it's here in front of us, that, and don't shoot me. I'm a little concerned about trying to make a decision tonight when the rest of what's going on, I mean, we all listened to Brian's conversation. I believe that somehow this council has to resolve whatever issues are happening with the Development Commission, the Chamber, and even TEDCO before we make some kind of commitment like this. Because I know, I've been around that for years, there's been some really good rapport. And we're certainly not having that right now. I personally almost feel like we're fighting against each other. And somehow we need to get over that. We need to communicate and find out where everybody is and what direction we would go from here before this decision can be made.
Well, I only brought it to you because.
No, I know, and you did a great job. You did do a good job on that. Like I said, that's just my feeling of where I feel like we're sitting with all of this.
In the end, there has to be an end point. There has to be a point where the council finally determines where this location is going to be.
Absolutely.
And what this ordinance is going to look like. And I guess my question to the council and the mayor is, how do we get to that decision point? What do you want to do? What do you want to see next?
I personally think we all have to sit down, come to the table together and have the conversations.
In a work session,
Yeah, I mean,
not formal.
Well, would you allow me to set that up? Because I think we talked about that, but nobody set it up.
right.
And so if you direct me to do so, I'm very happy to do that. Or if you would like to do that, that's fine, but I think probably we need to find somebody that's gonna set it up and get a date. That's my
Well,
only thing.
there had been some talk about this being a 5 Monday month. And if you're willing, you could look at this 5th Monday.
What is the date?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm wanting to. Oh, wait, on the 31st? Yeah. I will.
31st? What did you say?
31st.
The 31st we could. There's-
See, I'll be back for vacation, so.
You'll be having it.
What?
Yeah.
You won't be able to? No.
Could we just have like a mediator come in and run it? You're gone on the 31st. I would like it sooner though. And I, what I said earlier, I mean, if y'all are not seeing it that way, we can certainly move forward with this office thing.
Would it have to be a Monday night?
Not for me, no.
When do you come
I'm
back?
gone next week. I'm gone all week.
I come back August 5th.
August 5th.
Yep.
That's what's doing us.
Well, I mean, anytime, if the council so do it, I mean, we anytime
I think
between now and
we-
the 28th. Well then.
Not that you need me.
Well, it'd be nice to have.
I would love to come.
It would be nice to have.
Yeah.
So what about the 31st then? If I have to do
Yeah. I can call in.
it. Okay.
But I didn't know too, if you guys wanted to have it a full council meeting or have to keep it out of quorum style, have 2 members from the council meet with all the other representatives.
Brian, may I?
Yeah,
jump
definitely.
in?
Yeah, yeah.
I really feel that if we're trying to make things better, that everybody needs to be on the same
All right.
page. And that you hear the same thing,
Yeah.
because I think that's beneficial.
And if a quorum of the commission came, that would make a public meeting too.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Do you want to see if the 31st one?
Sure, so, commission, TEDCO, and representatives from TEDCO and the chamber, correct?
Chamber,
Okay. I will get it set up. And do we want it at 5:30, or do we want it later than? That's up to you. I'll just get it from you and then I'll contact everybody. 5:30? Do we need to make sure that it's open here for the fire station?
Yes, there's a big one.
Okay. How about if I check on that tomorrow, fire station, and if it's open, then we'll get a hold of everybody, and then I'll contact the rest of the individuals that need to be part of this meeting. But I'll make sure the fire station's open first, because I don't know what
No, I
I
don't.
do. Yeah, okay.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Oh, so, but we need to still act on this. Is there a motion to table this
I
then?
would move to table.
Spear with the first to table this?
And does anybody want to see those other sites? Are you okay?
If I already see, I kinda do, so I'll.
Okay, then just, yeah, get a hold of me and I will make it work.
Yep.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So, Spear with the first to table and Boots with the second?
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil, Boots.
Yes.
All right, so that's been tabled. And then we got the Chambers Rock and Ride Fest, the street closures. Come on back up.
Okay, now, this is not written in stone yet. This has been a lot of work. We have been doing a lot. This is a gravel road bike race, which there are certain people that are supposed to be doing certain things to make this work, which includes contacting the county. That's not me. And so, but I just felt it was very important, because I do like communicating, that you are aware of what's going on. Lisa and I have also visited, because this is a big undertaking. So what it is apparently, and I do not ride in bike races, maybe when I was a kid, but I don't anymore. There are gravel bike races that are becoming very popular in other states and some in Iowa. And so there's a group of riders that really enjoy this. The chamber decided to take this on as a fundraiser, but to make it bigger than that. So then that evening, it would be a food, there'd be food, and then also a beer tent. And I have actually talked to Chris Steffen, who is going to jump on board with us with that. We're trying to get Buchanan Winery to jump on board with us, so we can kind of showcase some of our own local things going on here too. But what it would entail is, we have right now, I believe, 3 bands that are going to be coming. And so we would need to be blocking off some streets. And for the bands, we'd have to block off 5th Street, Cedar to Meridian, but we also would have to use part of Meridian for the bike race. And then also, we would have to block off, when the bikers come in at the end, they would end at Keller's. So we'd have to block off 5th Street, Cedar to Lynn. Now, bikers would be coming into town as well, and so we'd have to make sure that we had either a checkpoint person there to watch for traffic, or caution signs. So we're trying to think of everything possible to make sure that the riders get into town safely, and that proper streets are blocked, and that we can also have the entertainment that evening. The chamber would like to have, every year, have an event come to town, a big event that's going to draw some revenue for our downtown district. So what I have, there's 3 bike races. One is a 16-mile bike race, and that starts at 3 p.m. because that's the short one. And then you have a 60-mile bike race and a 105-mile bike race. Those, both start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they'll end about the same time as the 16-mile. You also have 5 checkpoints out in the country. So, and the chamber would be responsible for that. And then ending back in town is where I would really need the help from the council to make sure that we can block off those streets. And then also the bands. About questions for me. And more details are going to be coming. I wanted this, so you don't hear things through the grapevine, that you know what's going on as I know what's going on. This is what I know what's going on right now.
I would probably recommend that whoever is supposed to get a hold of the county should do it sooner than later.
I have
That's for
said.
the liability that they might be
Yep.
facing. So
Yep. I have asked that to happen a while ago, so.
So they're actually riding across Cedar Street?
They would start actually behind the courthouse on Meridian. That's where the bike race would start, is behind Meridian. And then they go down, I believe, 4th Street to East Street, and then they go out to Inland Road.
Yeah.
And the map is kind of hard.
Yeah.
Even for me. So I would have, I would have Dan Roberts come here and talk to you about this map. Because the map part of this, I am not responsible for, so I am not the person that I don't want to give you an incorrect response. Because it's huge, because everybody's going to be coming in at a different point.
So even if we say, cool, this is awesome, go for it, there would still be a possibility that the county could say no.
Yeah, sure they could. And then we'd have to put on our brakes. Well, I have to know, because if we got higher bands, the chamber is forking out a lot of money for this. And so if the gravel road race doesn't happen, they probably would still have the band.
So the only thing that the council is responsible for is
In town,
and just setting up the road closures.
yeah.
We wouldn't be on the hook for any money for the.
You're not on the hook for anything.
Just making sure.
Yeah, not anything. No,
All right.
no. Just to make sure I can close roads.
All right. Is there a motion, McNeil with the first to approve the street closures?
I'll second.
And Spear with the second?
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Brooks? Sorry.
This is just in town
that's
now.
what I,
Yeah.
yes.
And I will keep you very posted. Okay? Even if I gotta go to the engineer. But I'm not the one that's supposed to, so, okay?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, okay. Maybe I need gravel road. But I don't know what. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.
All right, then to number 4, which would be side letter agreement between the city of Tipton and the union local number 893. Brian? Thank you.
This is something that goes back a ways. I know that when Tim Long was here, he was trying to find some comparable pay information for this position, and wasn't having a lot of success. Before I started here, I was asked to sit in on a phone call. We had a speakerphone meeting with Nicole from Verisight, which is now Newport. And one of the things that occurred to us was, rather than try to find these comparables, ask her to make a recommendation. I mean, it seems that the system is based on input from this company. So we decided to ask for an opinion. And that opinion is adopted in this side agreement. Now, I have to make one amendment to that came up after this went in the packet. This sets the pay for the city worker 4 position at a rate of $23.999 per hour from the period of July 1 of 2016 through July 30, 2017. It also provides for a retro pay increase of 0.555 cents per hour going back to July 1 of 2016. So the resulting increase for this position would be $23.663. Now, since this was sent to you, well, I'll just read a part of an email that Holly Corkery sent to Michael Hansen, who represents the union. She wrote, "It has come to our attention that the amount for 2017-2018 quoted in the side letter for that position is slightly below the midpoint. The side letter currently states that wages fall into the midpoint. However, after reviewing, they're slightly below. Based on that, the current contract, under the contract, that person is entitled to an extra 2% raise, which makes his rate of pay $24.136. And then she wrote, typically, I would not think this would be an issue, but I wanted to ensure that if we follow the contract and pay that person the additional 2%, the union won't have an issue with it. And their representative wrote back and said that he didn't have an issue with it. As I understood it, this issue has come up to the council level at different times. It went to Tim. As we were, after I started, and I think while Tim may have been still here, it came up as something more formal, rather than just the city as management deciding what this pay would be. There was a provision in the union contract that also brought them into the picture. And so then the situation basically transferred in a lot of ways to a discussion between Holly and the union rep, Michael. And that is where this agreement was hammered out. Now, I know that there have been concerns about not just the position, but the person in the position. And retaining that person has been an issue. Or I know it's a concern. The thing is, the city, whenever it chose to go with this Vericide Newport, for whatever reason, made this company more or less the umpire on deciding things like this. At least that's my interpretation of what their role is. So in order to have some sort of faith to that system, I mean, if you believe in it, I guess, and you have faith in it, we decided to bring this as amended by the email that followed it to the council for consideration. Now, it's my understanding that Michael, representing the union, has signed off on this. We don't have an actual signature, but we've been told that they've approved this. So now it's a matter, does the council want to do likewise?
I guess I would just, and again, this is my perspective of the Vericide study. And it it was done for the employees, for the city, for all of us, to get a feel for where we were in pay schedules and benefits. I don't feel like, or I didn't feel like we went away saying Verisight now is the umpire and they run the show. I think they're still our go-to person. But I think the study's been done, we now can move forward with implementing things as we need. I do believe in the study. I want to say that first. But I don't think it's been left that they're going to drive the truck forever.
So do you, I mean, are you saying that if we come to a different conclusion than what they're recommending, I'm not sure what the process is carried from
On
there.
how to get there?
Yeah, I'm not sure, I'm not familiar enough with the process here to say, in the end, the council, the council decision ends everything. I don't know that.
Okay.
I've heard a lot of cons about Verisight, not any pros. And my question is this really the right way for them to decide what our city employees are to be paid?
Well, when Tim couldn't come up with comparables, because cities of different sizes have jobs that are a hodgepodge. Some have combinations different than others, so they're often hard to compare. When he was looking for this, he couldn't find enough of the right combinations of similar jobs in order to have a foundation for coming up with anything. And so the only other alternative that we could think of that would have some kind of credibility was to ask the company to recommend something.
And I think that's what it did. It gave us our base on setting some guidelines and things like that. But I think that we still have some options out there.
We should have.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that we can predict is, well, at least one thing we know. If something is, I've noticed this so far. I mean, not necessarily this decision tonight, but I guess I've heard about it along the way. A decision about this job causes ripples for other jobs. And then after that, the cause is, well, if you're going to look at this job, then open things up for a number of other jobs. And I'm hoping we don't get into that too far, because the ripple effect, I don't think, is going to end.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my take on it. This gives us a template on how to have this conversation in the future, if need be. Is that correct? Is that kind of going along the same lines?
Yeah, I think so.
The city paid a lot of money for this report, so I just feel you ought to stick with it and go with the recommendation.
I would think if we were out of line, the union would be in agreement with this. And they are, so I think that we must be, close to where we need to be. The other thing is, isn't this kind of a new position since we didn't have the water when the Verisight was done?
I guess
That's right.
I'm going to ask, if I don't have the background, any of our department heads, Steve, for example, to answer, my understanding was it was in an appendix to the labor agreement, but it wasn't in the agreement. It wasn't identified in the agreement. And that was part of what brought in the union to the role that they have. So I'm not sure about the exact origin of the position relative to the study. That I'm not sure.
I believe at the time, we knew we were going to be taking over the wastewater. We just hadn't happened. And so they didn't do a lot.
Well, there was one other thing that, we were talking about it last week, and we got Nicole on the phone again. One of the things that was discussed was, if this job is a backup for the water wastewater operator, what qualifications do they need to have? Well, now Eldon has, as I understand it, grade ones. The backup position ultimately requires grade 2. One of the things that we discussed was, if that is obtained, if and when, then he'd be eligible to move to the midpoint of that U9 wage scale, which currently is, I think it's something like 2512 or 2514, something like that. One of the things that came up early on was the idea of incentive pay. The union and the city actually put language in there not to have incentive pay because different types of certifications were doable for some employees but not doable for others. And one of the questions was, well, is a grade 1, if you raise a person for grade 1 and they don't make the grade 2, which is required as that backup, is that incentive pay? And that was one of the flags that that our local union representatives threw at me. It's complicated. It seems more complicated than you'd hope it to be, but that's what it is. It's very complicated.
What does it take for him to be, just more education and more certifications to be a 2?
I think it's a matter of education and time, experience.
It's a continuing education process.
That's Brian, he knows it.
There is a process, but I just want to clarify. The backup doesn't actually have to be certified grade 2 to be my backup. Now, if I was to die in a plane crash and you no longer have your head operator, you're going to need somebody certified to run the plant, which would be a grade 2 at this point. So that's where the grade 2 comes in. But to be the backup, he doesn't actually have to be certified in a grade 2. So.
But the way that I understood the City 4 was, the person was supposed to be more or less an operator in waiting in case that did happen.
And that makes sense. Yes.
And the question was, well, do you treat the job at grade 1 as a backup operator or a grade 2 in waiting? And that would be, for example, if somebody trained somebody else for the day they retired as that job in waiting. And it doesn't seem to have as much logic as you'd hope. You know, it's hard to justify in a system like this to bring someone along as a whatever in waiting until they actually are to that level.
So I guess the question is, for me, do we want to go with the recommendation and this template from the company that we had hired to help us out with this?
I motion that.
All right.
Okay.
Well, no, wait, go on.
Okay, so you're telling me the 24.136 is mid-range or below?
It's a bit below.
It's a bit below. And is there a reason it can't go to mid-range?
Well, again, the recommendation we got was she, at least, in her expertise, couldn't seem to justify going to the midpoint without the grade 2 certification.
But the grade 2 would take him to a U9. I thought you said.
Well, he is a U9.
Oh, I thought he was going to a city worker 4.
Yes,
The same as the.
he is that,
Okay.
yeah. But then the alternative question is, if this type of analysis doesn't make it here tonight, where do we go from here?
Do you know what the mid would
Yeah,
be?
it was, currently it's like 2512 or 2514.
Oh, okay, that was the figure you gave us. I guess my feeling on that would be, we've spent a lot of money to get him the training. I mean, it cost us, right, to do that. And, if we're quibbling over, 90 cents or whatever, and now we're gonna go back to square one, Brian has no backup, we don't have a trained person.
But I believe there are people going for that grade 1 right now, in Public Works as well, others.
They're gonna be Brian's backup? I didn't know that.
Steve, are there other guys going for that certification as well?
We have one other employee that's working that direction.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think just as a backup probably, to Brian, probably, who knows? Nobody knows, but, could be a backup.
Steve, is there anything that's been set up here, say, for example, by me, that needs correction?
I think you've done great on explaining the whole thing. It's a very difficult position, primarily from my standpoint, because this position evolved. We knew we were probably going to take over water, wastewater. We had a guy in-house with Brian to do that. So I was very comfortable with that. We didn't have the backup guy. And that's where Eldon stepped in, and that's how that job description got developed and then added to, and then what's it worth? What's it worth to the city? I wrote a letter last October. In my mind, it was worth someplace between what City Worker 4 was getting and what our water wastewater operator was working with. And then we checked with other communities. What do those grades mean? What does an operator typically get in some of these smaller communities? Keeping in mind it's a different mix in different communities because, like you said earlier, Brian, it's a hodgepodge of positions or jobs in that arena. But the mix was somewhere between 50 cents an hour more up to $2 an hour more. It's a tough decision. It's a tough thing to deal with and come to a fair, I think, thing. I think the most, like you said, Pam, we've got a lot of time and money invested right now in an individual that has 3 grades with water, wastewater, and water distribution. I'd like all my guys to have water distribution grades because that helps us work on water main breaks. And currently, Clay has gotten to that point. So he's out there, he's got a very good understanding. I want a couple more of my guys to get that. However, those guys aren't the guys in the immediate future that are going to be working with the water and the wastewater. As far as the same, they do the rounds, but they're not getting into it deep like Eldon and of course Brian. So,
and I don't want to lose any of our employees. I mean, from what I've seen so far, we have really good employees, and I don't want to lose any. But one of the things about towns of our size, and I'm sure you know this already, there's always a public works department that's bigger somewhere else that would offer more. There's always a police department or a sheriff's department that would offer more. The electric utilities, privately owned, would offer more. those things that I'd love to retain people, but it's one of the realities that we face.
And just to reiterate, going forward, this could be the process to follow if any issues like this were to come up again, if we approve this agreement. Meanwhile, if we decide not to, then it could potentially open up.
That would be my prediction, yeah. I would think so.
I'd like to interject something here. I worked in a water wastewater treatment plant in Florida. And I have never seen anybody who has advanced any quicker than Eldon. They don't do that by being stupid. They have to have the intelligence, they have to have the fortitude to do that job. And I've never seen anybody do it as quickly as he has. That bespeaks a lot of integrity in the man. It speaks a lot of his go get it. You know, he's aggressiveness. I've never met anybody else like that that's ever done that in that length of time. Usually it takes 2 to 3 years for them to get that position. It didn't take him 6 months, did it?
But then we have to separate the person
Right.
from the position.
Huh?
We have to separate the person from the position as well, though.
Exactly.
Moving forward.
But
So,
that same position is positions that I've seen other people take 2 and 3 years to get to there. And it took him a whole lot less time. And it just behooves his ability, and if he's going to continue on with this, he needs to be compensated for it.
all right.
Enough said.
Then is there a motion to approve, deny, or table this?
Motion to approve the.
Second.
The side letter agreement?
Yes.
All right, McNeil with the first to approve the side letter agreement, and Lieber with the second.
Spear.
I guess I just want to clarify that I do believe in the study, and I do think that it could be setting precedent. I hate the feeling that we would lose an employer like Eldon over this, but I guess we paid for the study and I have to accept it. So I say yes.
Lieber.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Boots.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
All right. And moving on to what Mr. Meyer had come and talked about earlier, the library board, to place an item on the November ballot, asking the voters to reduce the size from 9 to 7.
We would have to, if you want to go ahead with that, we would have to come back with a resolution later with the ballot language and pass that. That would then go over to the auditor. And in the write-up I did, I guess I could also note that I asked her if she would give a quote on the cost of doing this ballot. She said that we wouldn't be charged to add that for the special election.
All right.
Make a motion.
To approve. All right, Anderson with the first, and Lieber with the second.
Lieber.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
Boots. Yes. Anderson.
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
Okay, now comes the recommendation for the airport, from the airport committee to raise Max Coppis's pay from $2,000 to $2,500 per year. And it hadn't been increased since 2014. Pam, you are on the airport committee. Do you have anything to add, or?
Max does a great job out there. He certainly puts in more hours than $2,500.
Is there any other questions or discussion?
Just so everyone knows, this has been in the budget, I think, for the last 2 years, and it's just never progressed.
The $500 has been, okay. So is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Spear with the first, and Lieber with the second.
McNeil.
Yes.
Boots.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
Lieber.
Yes.
All right, so that has been approved. And now change orders from the Fairbanks Morse engine overhaul. Mr. Tabor?
Okay, you should have copies from, there were 2 emails that were sent to me from Cypress Engines. Basically what it boils down to is what Tanya and I knew when we started taking this thing apart a little over a year ago. Her and I both noticed that on the north turbo unit on that engine that it looked like it had impact damage, that the turbo didn't spin correctly. And with that being said, our feelings were right. So they contacted me, told me that there was going to be an extra almost $9,300 charge to fix that shaft and to fix the front face of that turbo because of the erosion damage and the impact damage from it. So, and that will be included with that. And then the other one was the vertical drive unit, which they told us that we were very close to having a disaster on our hands. When I talked to him on the phone, what had happened was the previous contractor had done some things which are not according to oil, and the nut is supposed to be torqued to 650 foot-pounds. That holds this in place on the top half of the vertical drive, which mounts to the top crankshaft. They can unscrew it with their hands.
Who?
So, with that being said, what's that?
Those were some strong guys.
Yeah. And if you read the email that came from Gary Hill, he explains what he thinks happened to it. I have found this to be a great learning experience, not in the way that I really wanted it to be. We did find some other issues in the vertical drive. Fortunately, didn't ruin it. There was a freeze plug drove into place where oil is supposed to go up through. And we don't know why he did that. Today, Tanya found her first oil rag in the oil pan that we figured he left in there. So, and there's been some other things that we've seen, but on the process of this gear, what they're going to do is they're going to remachine it, and they're going to plate it. And what this basically is like a ring and pinion in your car, in the rear end. You have the ring gear, then you have the pinion gear, and this is the pinion gear. Now when they come here, they're going to have to re-shim the ring gear and do some things differently. It's going to take a little bit more time, but it's just one of those things that goes with it. So, yeah, and this is going to add about $12,000 to the price. We're working on, what's that?
That's still not a bad price.
No, right now we took all the fuel pumps off of it, and they're working on a price on those because we want to go through those and rebuild them.
They have been rebuilt in the last,
3 or 4 years.
well, 2 of them were rebuilt in 2 or 3 years. The rest of them, they were probably going back 12 years ago. They were rebuilt for our previous contractor, but they were never certified. According to Cypress, they should go through a test bench, and then they're certified, and you have a card that comes with them that tells you what they're good for. This is not information that we have anywhere.
Yeah, we don't have any of this. So right now, we've got them all off. Were they all shimmed?
Yes.
Okay. There was questions about if they were properly shimmed or not. So as we move forward.
Did you know that a couple of the springs went into play? On the top of a fuel pump,
Yeah.
there's springs that keep it, I found springs on the, they weren't inserted with the fuel pump.
So, and to resurface this and everything, they're figuring about $2,500, but you figure it's probably going to be a little less than that. So we're moving forward. They're supposed to be here August 8th, I believe. That's what sticks in my mind, is August 8th. And we'll be working Saturdays. We will not be working Sundays, but we'll probably be working 10 and 12-hour days.
All right. There a motion to approve this?
So,
Boots with the first and Leeper with the second?
Boots. Yes. Anderson.
Yes.
Spear. Leeper. McNeil.
All right, so now down to the reports. I do have another report. I attended my first Cedar County Bicycle Coalition. Yes, the other night, the other Sunday night, and they have got a lot of neat things going on. I strongly encourage anyone to attend one of their meetings. Got a lot of lofty goals, but a lot of people also helping pull for them. If they're able to and we're able to help them move along to their goals, I think it could be a huge asset to the town, and they're just doing a great job. All right, anybody from council? Committees? City manager? Department heads?
I got a couple of things. Last week, just as the fair started, I think it was the first day, we had a fuse blow at the trailer court, which was an underground fault. Well, the trailer court in the last year and a half, we've had 3 faults out there, which tells me that the cable is coming to the end of its life. If you remember, we had the same problem going out to Walmart. We fixed that piece, which there's still more out there. As time goes on, this cable, there's a lot of it scattered through town. We're going to have to start looking at rehabilitating this cable, and it's not going to be cheap, because it's just going to keep causing outages. I have to have Muscatine come up and do the fault locating. If anything goes wrong on the trailer court between now and then, whenever they come, we're going to throw a cable on the ground or something. John and I did sit down and talk last year about revamping the trailer park, but it all boils down to cost. How much money do we want to put into this? But it's not just the trailer court. Like I say, the feet going out to Walmart, all of that pretty much in the northeast corner of town that has been done. Almost all of that is this type of cable. It's 30, 40 years old. Its life's over, and we're going to start having more and more problems throughout town. So we're going to have to start dedicating more funds to that. And then the guys went out and did some pole inspections, and we found 40 poles that need to be replaced. And I really hadn't budgeted for that, but this is stuff that we get a big windstorm or something, they're probably going to be on the ground. So I went out for bids on poles, and like I say, I haven't got them all back yet. But we're probably looking at $12,000, $13,000 just for poles, because we're not going to be able to get all this stuff in underground, because we just don't have the funds. So those are just 2 of the issues that have popped up this last month. But I just want you to be aware of these.
All right. Thank you much, boys. Chief Kempford?
I'll make it quick. I just wanted to give you the update on the 4th step wave, which is the Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau, which was 2 weeks between May and June. We had 147 traffic citations, which is 10 and a half citations a day. That was in a 2-week period. We raised our seatbelt usage 4%, and then in July, when we had just a 4-day wave, we got it back up into the 93 or 95% seatbelt usage. So it is working. My guys are out there doing a lot of traffic. If we do any more traffic, we're going to have some people revolting. They're already mad, pretty faced with. We have better things to do than pull people over. So, but we also had an arrest warrant surge, 2 felony arrests, 2 narcotic arrests, and our
motorist assists, where we help motorists, car unlocks usually, 5 of those. So just an update, that's what the guys are out there doing with their traffic.
All right, thanks, Chief.
One more thing. Just if you're aware, we had 2 young kids last year that we did a city award for them, a life-saving award in the city here. I presented that to the governor's office, and they were chosen to receive the governor's life-saving award at the state fair in August, and also mid-summer. So we'll have 3 of our citizens going out to the state fair receiving the governor's life-saving award on the first state fair.
Great, thank you.
I'll be second too. First of all, I want to thank Ross and Larry, because those 2 were instrumental in getting that rag bike up, and it really looks good. And now we'll finish it up at some point to get the lights up and have those on a timer, so at night the lights will be on. But it really is a very nice addition, and I know really how hard you 2 both worked, and I just publicly want to thank both of you for all your hard work, because it looks fantastic. Couldn't have done it without you. And then, real quick, second of all, I met with ECIA today, and we met again about the Great Place Grant, Iowa Grant. And one thing, and Rod Ness was there, as was Loudon, West Branch, and Clarence. One of the things that ECIA would like us to do, it's called the Vision Plan with the University of Iowa. There are students that do this plan, and they survey the community to see what it is that the community wants for us. There is a cost for this, and it is $1,500. Rod is going to see how he can help those communities that have already stayed in with Cedar County to see if he can help us out a little bit with this grant money, which I think is going to be instrumental, because this vision plan will help us down the road, because it actually is going to tell us what our community wants. And I do have money in a line item that whatever is not covered, I have money, but it would be split between communities that are set to go forth. And then after that is done, the students would work from August until April, and then we would have till next year to try to get a grant ready, perhaps. So it is actually very exciting, but it's going to cost a little bit of money, and then it'll cost a little more money to get some grants going. But, you know, if the community's really interested in these bike trails, that's something that we talked about today. There was another individual, Ed Reaver, I can't remember, he was there today too. And I know that our county engineer is the chair. And so we need to start setting our goals and see how we can accomplish those goals. But I wanted you to be aware of that today. Okay?
The one thing about that process is, you go through this process. The Great Places Grant, the maximum award is $400,000. Just as an example, my previous town, wherever that is, went through that process and got one of those grants. And in fact, a lot of that money was used on a trail bridge over the river. The reason why I mention this is, if you're going to compete for these grants, there's some upfront money that you gotta do to participate. You have to dance to their tune, and there are some good things that can come out of this visioning process too that might be useful in other ways. So I just wanted to mention that you start this way, but hopefully at the end you find something that really is helpful to the city.
All right, and seeing Linda reminded me of another thing. If you guys haven't checked it out, we were featured on Our Town. Bruce Downey was out here at the fair, which, by the way, was magnificent as well. I know that's not the city, but the county did a great job with that. If you haven't gotten a chance to look at it, it is on their website. You go to kcrg.com and check out Our Town on there and share it and spread it around with everybody that you know. All right, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Beaver with the first,
Second.
and Anderson with the second.
Anderson?
Yeah.
Spear?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
McNeil?
All right, we are adjourned.